Fun, Danny Cunningham, Judd Zolgad, and the Star Tribune today.
Also.
So, yeah, front page of the sports section on the Star Tribune, Judd, we've got Gersson Rosas, the new president of basketball operations with the Timberwolves. He was introduced yesterday at Target Center, gave his press conference, talked about questioning the norm, among other things. Judd, what's your initial response to the way he was introduced yesterday by the Wolves?
Well, I thought the press conference that was made for TV part didn't help me get to know him much.
No.
But statistically and looking at what the Wolves did and going and getting a guy from the Rockets, I like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not criticizing the hire. I do think not allowing the media to ask mainstream questions of the guy during the press conference that's shown on Fox Sports North doesn't help me or a Wolves fan. I like where they're going, but let me say this.
Say it.
I was at the first Wolves home game of all time, Jordan and the Bulls,
We get it, you're old.
at the Metrodome. I'm old, okay? I have seen this club through Bill Musselman, Bob Stein, Jimmy Rogers, Bill Blair, McHale, Flip. I could just go down the list. The success has been very, very small.
They've had about one good year in franchise history.
So I'm not raving about anything until I actually see it happen.
That's fair. I thought that I came away mildly impressed. I did like the questioning the norm thing that he brought up. He also brought up the action over words. And yeah, you can say that these are cliches, but he also realized, I think, that he can say all of these great things, but if he doesn't do anything, none of it matters. And that's to have that self-realization that I can talk this huge game, but if I don't produce,
Right.
I'm a failure.
Right.
That matters to me because that's what it is.
Right. And this is now pretty much the Twins course, right?
Yeah.
Where Falvey came in, hired his guys, hired a ton of people behind the scenes that they don't even talk about, and the transformation takes time. But this is, the one thing, Tibbs did a lot of bad things here just because he was old school
And because he was Tibbs, let's face it.
but he wasn't progressive.
Yeah.
And so this organization right now, from the NBA in 2019 and where things stand and where teams stand with research, analytics, all that, the Wolves probably are way behind. And Gersson Rosas is just starting now. So Danny, he's coming in and probably saying, well, we got to change that. We got to change that. So he's going to have to change and alter a lot of things that he's probably finding out about right now, and that guys like you and me don't even know about, right?
It kind of has felt that the Wolves, throughout the course of their franchise history, it feels as if they've been 3 or 4 years behind the trend at all times. Like in 2007, they were kind of doing things the way they were done in 2003. And right now, they're kind of doing things the way they were done for the most part in 2015.
Okay.
So maybe this is something that catches them up to speed with the rest of the NBA, and then that could make a difference in this team actually being competitive.
So what's the biggest thing short term that if he can change is going to take the timetable and speed that up? What's the biggest one or two things short term?
I think that the playing style is going to change. I don't think that they're going to be near the bottom of the league in three-pointers attempted. I think that they're going to try and play with a little bit faster pace, and Ryan Saunders talked about that throughout his tenure as the interim coach, which we don't know if he's going to be returning now. I was more confident about him returning prior to yesterday than I am today. Mm-hmm. I think that we will see a new style of basketball. I also think that we're going to see them experiment at the lower level more. I think that the Iowa Wolves will do some really interesting things the way that the Rio Grande Valley Vipers have, which is Houston's developmental team. I think that that's going to be something. It's going to be a testing ground of sorts.
And as Jim Pete said when he joined us on the show yesterday afternoon, Jim Pete brought up the fact, and he's probably 1,000% right, that Tibbs just saw the G League as a place to send guys.
Yeah, like punishment.
Yes. So in Tibbs's mind, this was minor league baseball circa 1985 or something.
Yeah.
You're no good, so get out of here, or just go play. I think you're right. I think what's going to be really interesting to watch is how Rosas approaches things here. And that's my point is this is going to be a structural thing that goes beyond things that right now, if you asked us, we simply don't know.
Yeah.
Like he's going to have ideas. There's going to be a lot of things that he's going to do behind the scenes that we might find out about well after the fact, but right now probably couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting summer. I do think that, and in Thibodeau's first offseason here, he didn't do anything really. He just kind of took an approach where he was going to sit back and see what he had, but I think that this is going to be very different this summer.
He spent a year hey, we were all excited the night that it happened, but he spent a year making the path for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
That was basically Tibbs' job. In Tibbs' mind, if I can get Jimmy, it's going to be fine. Seriously.
Sure.
And that was it. So, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, but I like the fact now that both the Twins and Wolves seem to have taken a significant leap into the game today, when both at one point seemed to be so far behind things, Danny.
It's refreshing to see. I do think it was a good hire. Obviously, time will tell. We don't know right now. We'll find out 2-3 years down the road if it was a good hire. It could be a failure, and we could sound like morons for thinking
It's the
it was
Wolves.
smart.
You don't
exactly.
know. Tibbs excited me. I thought Tibbs was a great hire.
Of course you did.
That's my fault.
He's your style. Old school.
He's old school. I thought that's great. But you know what? Tibbs and Flip as well. Love the two. Mm-hmm. Both those guys. If you look statistically, Flip became very upset when people started to say during his second time here, "Are you sure this is the right way?" He got real defensive. So this whole thing is taking the Wolves to a basketball idea that basically, I think is fair to say, has never existed here.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. The Wolves' 3-point made for career, like the 3-point made leaders, is embarrassing. Steph Curry's 2015-16 season would be third all-time in career 3-pointers made in Minnesota Timberwolves history. That's how bad it's been.
That is really embarrassing.
All right, Bobby Orr sitting behind you. Hockey last night, interesting night. I wanted to dive into this because there was some interesting stuff on the ice, but I thought what happened off the ice was a little more interesting. Can you explain?
Okay, so Boston's got a player who is, let's be very clear, very talented, Brad Marchand, but he's a punk.
Okay.
He's a little agitator. He looks like a rat. He can play like a rat. He can be incredibly cheap. He's talented. He punched during the course of the Blue Jackets series against the Bruins, which just came to an end last night. After a game, he punched a guy in the back of the head and didn't get fined or suspended.
I saw that.
Despite the fact that he should have been, because that was hockey. That's what we're trying to get rid of. Like, if you can suffer a concussion, there should be consequences.
I agree.
And if I punch you in the back of the head, you can suffer a concussion.
Especially when you can't defend yourself.
Correct. The second thing he did at one point was he stepped on the stick and broke it with his skate of a Blue Jackets player. So the guy who does the rinkside stuff, young guy for Hockey Night in Canada, he asked, Marchand skated over during pregame warmups, I think game 2 or 3, and he asked him, his second question was, "Did you get your skate sharpened yet?" Which was a smart-ass way. Marchand got mad and skated away. Last night, post-game, Bruins have won the series. Everybody's happy, right, Danny Cunningham? Marchand comes over, same guy, to talk to him post-game, and the guy proceeds to ask him 3 questions, in which I believe Marchand said a total of 10 words.
That's not great word economy.
And was a total jerk. Now, if it had just been that guy, it's sort of like, okay, that's, I don't know,
You're a jerk, but whatever.
Yeah, and the reporter's not super professional, I don't think, in asking his question, so it's not fair, but it's done. But it didn't end there.
Where'd it go?
It went to the locker room.
What happened there?
Post-game scrum. Entire media, right? So this is nobody he's got an axe to grind with, or it might be one person.
And it's the Eastern Conference semifinal, so it's not as if it's a Wednesday night media scrum.
Again, everybody happy, right?
Yes.
Marchand's asked a total of, I think I told you, was it 15 to 19 questions?
19 questions.
39 words.
That's
30
pretty
some
bad.
odd words. So he's just being a petulant jerk. And unfortunately, it's not surprising because he's a punk, but it's also just embarrassing.
So let me ask you this. Let's go here. Who is the biggest jerk that you've ever covered in your illustrious journalism career, Judd?
Well, I covered football for a long time, and
Yes.
that's got a wide range of guys. It's got some really good people, too,
Sure.
but it's got a wide range of guys who can be jerks. But I would say the biggest jerk that I covered, and the thing about jerks is they can be entertaining at times, but they're still jerks.
Oh, absolutely.
Probably the biggest jerk that I covered was Randy Moss upon his return here when he wasn't that good in 2010.
So the second version of Randy
second
Moss,
version
not the Hall of Fame.
Well,
Randy
and he was
Moss.
a jerk too, but he was so doggone good. What are you going to do about it?
Sure.
But this guy came back here, lasted less than a month. I think it was just shy of 1 month here, and was as petulant as you could possibly be. Wouldn't talk. I finally, in fact, very proud of this. There is a rule that players, if they're requested, are supposed to talk, I believe, once a week.
Correct.
In football. Moss was not fulfilling that. And so I contacted the league because I was the Viking beat writer for the Star Tribune at the time. I contacted the league and said, okay, what do you need here? They said, you have to document it. So I did. And he finally got fined. Because it's like, you've got to talk.
Yeah.
You can't just not
You're
talk.
Randy Moss.
And the other thing about Moss, too, was he's one of these guys that love to sit in the locker room when most guys, if they don't want to talk, would disappear to like a
They go to the trainer's room or the weight room or wherever the media can't
He
go.
would sit there and just be a jerk. So, and the guy is super talented. I firmly believe that his 84 should be retired by the Vikings. So I have no axe to grind here, but an incredible jerk.
It's kind of mind-blowing that his number's not retired.
Yeah, and you know what? It's come up again. Now he was inducted into the Ring of Honor, I think 2 years ago now, I believe. But I've been on this bandwagon for a while, and my threshold here is Randy Moss's 84 as a Viking should be retired because he changed the game.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a great Vikings player.
You can make an argument that he is the greatest receiver of all time.
Well, and if you think about where we're at right now in this league, passing crazy league, right? Receivers are as important as ever.
Yeah.
We see high-flying wire acts that are incredible. That started where? 98 with Moss.
Yep.
Moss at Green Bay, October of 98. Moss Thanksgiving Day in Dallas, 98. That started, I believe that the league looked at Moss, and rightfully so, said, how can we make more rules to get this?
Yeah.
So he did not just change things for the Vikings, which he did. He changed the game. And I think if you change the game, the team that had you from 98 to 2004 should say, you know what, this probably requires us to go beyond a Ring of Honor type of thing. I think your 84 should be retired.
It should be. There's no excuse for someone that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame to not have their number retired, in my opinion.
There's few of those guys, though. That's not as unusual as you think, because what football teams will always tell you is there's only so many numbers to go around.
I don't care.
But I don't care about that when the guy changed the game.
Make it work. You can find a way.
If Randy Moss had just had an impact here and his impact hadn't extended beyond here, I'd be like, okay, I sort of get that, because the Vikings haven't retired numbers of guys who were great Vikings. But in 1999, Ron Wolf, then GM of the Packers, if you look at his draft, his first 3 picks in 99, I believe, are all defensive backs over 6 feet tall.
Try and stop Randy Moss.
That's the only reason he did it. If you are that big of a difference maker in your league and nobody before you has been like you, basically, retire the number.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Judd, what did you bring in for show and tell today?
Okay, this is a surprise, and you old people out there are going to love this. So if you're on Facebook right now, all 12 of you.
Oh, my goodness.
You remember when I was a kid, used to take the lunchbox, the NFL lunchbox. And I don't know, Seth, if we can get as close as we need to on this. But this is the AFC, and this has got to be the 70s shortly after the merger. This is the old school lunchbox. AFC, NFC, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, these are all the teams that used to be in the league. This is basically everything.
That's amazing.
So we've got, let's see here, Vikings right there, St. Louis Cardinals, of course the Green Bay Packers, the Rams, and
the first LA
and
Rams.
Also, yes, these are the best, in my opinion, logos ever.
You think so?
I love these logos. I love these ones. The colors are right.
The colors are great.
The only one of these that I think might be improved upon now might be the Bengals.
The Bengals helmet
had that
wasn't
generic
great.
sort of Browns thing, but it had
their helmet wasn't great. I think their helmet's better now.
But for the most part,
amazing.
These are great. But I'm not done yet. Extra surprise.
Did you pack lunch for us?
I packed lunch in the form of old school baseball cards. Bring that sucker in here. Because all you people, only know Burt Lila. That's right. Burt Lila as a kid. Hold on
player.
Here. I'm going to identify this. You even smell it. This is a Lilevin. So this is a top 1973 Leo DeRosa, manager card.
Wow.
That's right. I could keep going. Former great Cub, Milt Pappas. So this is a real throwback. I want to show you this too. Okay. Old school White Sox. Look at those jerseys.
How about those red hats?
Look at those red hats.
What year is that from?
70. So this was shot in the 71 season. These I believe them are the 1972 top set. But this is early 70s. And this country was at its dope smoking best. These are. Let's see if I got one more for you. I've got a bunch of them. I opened this thing up and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got all these baseball cards.
Were the baseball cards already in there?
No. I put them in years ago. I'm going to find one more for you. Let's see if there's a big one here. Oh, here's a good one for you. Astros, Bob Watson. Bob Watson, famous. Bad News Bears, was it 2, I believe? Mm-hmm. Let them play.
Yeah.
Let them play. That's Bob Watson.
That's
long
amazing.
before Bad News Bears. Anyway, so that's today's show and tell. Not just the lunchbox. How great is that? Not just the lunchbox. Baseball cards in the lunchbox.
Amazing.
Primo Judd.
That is amazing, Judd. I don't know how we're going to improve upon that, but we're going to try next week to bring another item to show and tell. We'll be back tomorrow on Cluster Fun. Myself and 2 characters to be determined. See you tomorrow at